Good evening, sports fans, and welcome to the Weekend Eve. I am Brian Kress, the awesome voice. This is Any Given Sunday on KUAW. Yes, we do have a lot of echoing. Tonight, Coach 24, Darwin Penny, is out of town. He is on the East Coast still doing his scouting job and doing it to perfection. Behind the scenes, running the show, DJ Scatter, Mr. George Walker. Mr. Walker, how are you doing this evening?
Well, other than pressing a few buttons trying to figure out what's going on, I'm doing pretty good.
Oh, and if I was deaf, I was not deaf anymore. Wow, that was loud. And again, for the second straight week, and it's an honor, I have Max Gershon, a representative of the Dan Patrick Sportscasting School. How are you doing this evening, sir?
I'm good, Brian. Thanks for having me back on. And we're talking more sports this time, I think, right?
Yes, we are going to talk more sports tonight. So definitely, we got a lot going on. Though the Royals are not playing, they are going to take roughly their last day off before this killer schedule that they're going to have. I guess the next 20 games will define if they will be contenders or pretenders. Right now, they are the third team in the wild card. They are just a hair behind the Twins, and with the Guardians losing today to the Yankees, with Aaron Judge hitting another home run, which put him at 48, and I believe he is the third Yankee player in history behind Mickey Mantle or Roger Maris and Babe Ruth for having this many home runs before the month of September.
Yeah, Aaron Judge is one-of-a-kind player. You know, you talk about how good Bobby's been this year, and you look at all of his numbers that he's put together, and you say he's also a one-of-a-kind player. But even as much as I would give Bobby the benefit of the doubt as a Royals fan for MVP, it's kind of hard to say that anymore with how good Aaron Judge is playing.
Because Bobby Witt leads in average at home, average with RSIP, runners in scoring possession, and like he's batting 445 since the All-Star break.
Yeah.
I mean, the record for average hitting in a year, which was before 1920, was 426. So batting 445 even for just a month is
Right.
just amazing in itself. What would it take for Bobby Witt Jr. to overtake Aaron Judge in the MVP?
I think it would take Aaron Judge not playing anymore this season, and it would also take Bobby hitting a home run a game at this pace. Honestly, one of those would have to happen for Bobby to win it. It's unfortunately for Royals fans, it's kind of a closed book in my opinion on the MVP race, especially in the American League. But that being said, I don't think there's anyone that looks down on the season that Bobby Witt Jr. is having.
Well, absolutely. Well, if you think about it, 1941, we were both not alive. My father was alive. He was a year old. But in that year was the year that Ted Williams batted 406, which was the last year that any batter or player batted over 400. But it was also the same year that Joe DiMaggio had his 56-game hitting streak. So, to me, it's kind of the same way. One of them is not going to win the MVP,
Yeah.
and they had the stats to absolutely win it. So that's how I'm going to compare this year. I'm going to compare them to DiMaggio and Williams. So I think that's a good comparison.
Yeah, absolutely. And there was a tweet, if I can find it, that Jeff Passan put out. It was about Ted Williams and Aaron Judge's seasons. Let me see if I can pull it up really quick. But it was kind of comparing that.
Right.
No one has put up these numbers that Aaron Judge is putting up since Ted Williams. So, yeah, Aaron Judge threw 127 games in 2024, 334, 465, 722 his slashes, and then 47 home runs, 117 RBIs. The last player not linked to steroids to slug this high in a full season was Ted Williams in 1957.
1957? 1957?
Yeah.
Wow. Because Ted Williams that meant that was at his end
Yeah.
of his career. So that's even more amazing because Aaron Judge is at his prime right now.
Yeah.
I think he's late 20s.
He's 31.
Okay, so he's early 30s, but still prime. And I know that the prime today is much different. I think they say the prime is in between 25 and 29, where I was growing up, it was 28 to 32. So,
Right.
So Aaron Judge was in his prime, and Ted Williams was on his way out, and he is batting stats like that.
Yeah.
That is just amazing in itself. So saying that, the Royals took care of business. Yeah, they struggled on Tuesday night. Cole Reagans struggled, but he still pitched well enough to win, and then the bullpen kind of let him down. They did win 3 games, or they swept
The Reds.
the Reds, outscoring them 28 to 3. And if you take the 7 runs that they scored on Tuesday night, or against the Royals on Tuesday night, they had only given up 4 runs in the other 5 games. Saying that, they are playing well, but now they've got a killer. Schedule coming up.
Yeah, it's these are the games that you kind of looked at after that All-Star break, and you said this is what will decide the season. Luckily for the Royals, which I kind of was nervous, at some stretch of the season there was these easy spots, and we weren't taking full advantage. But we've taken enough advantage of the easy start in the second half that we have some cushion. It's not a lot, but we do have a cushion. I think we're 4.5 on the Red Sox, maybe 3.5, and then the Mariners have completely fallen off in the two spots out of the wild card now. So there is some cushion, but if you're talking about winning the AL Central, which is definitely in play, still this is the stretch where it needs to be the best baseball that we've played all year.
Absolutely. And with that, saying about Seattle, today they fired Scott Service. So he had been the manager since 2016, led them to a couple of playoff appearances. They weren't in it every single year, but they just didn't meet expectations.
Yeah, I mean, the Mariners are such an interesting team, and I think that firing definitely makes sense because they have the best pitching staff in the entire Major League Baseball, and they're still struggling. They have the offensive talent, and it's evident when we play the Mariners because they seem to hit no matter who we throw up on the mound. But they have the best pitching staff. Their bullpen is shaky, but their starters are getting them to the 8th inning almost every single game, and they're still finding ways to lose baseball games. So I think the firing of Scott Service definitely makes sense.
Does the timing make sense? Because even though they are starting to fall out of the wild card race, they were still in the wild card race.
Yeah, I think it's definitely unique timing. Usually you'll see those managers that have been around for a while, they'll let them finish out the year, and then they'll fire them in the offseason. But I think that's just kind of the front office of the Mariners saying, we've tried everything to give you as many chances as possible this season, and it's just not working out. So we might as well try something new and see if something clicks in the clubhouse. How many times have we seen just some small change, whether it's a lineup or a pitcher or a new hitter, or maybe even a new coach like the Mariners might have, can completely flip the switch that they need to maybe push their way back to the playoffs.
And maybe this is the little push that they need to get back into it. Now, saying about the Royals, they're starting their rough schedule, the 20 games, and they start off with the Phillies. Now, saying this, Phillies are first in the East. They are roughly one of the top teams in baseball. I believe the Baltimore Orioles are first, and
I think it might be the Yankees now.
And then the Yankees.
Yeah.
So Yankees and Orioles are just going back and forth. So it's almost like whoever does not win the East will have the number 1 wild card. And Phillies and Dodgers are fighting for the for the top spot in the NL.
Yeah, and Milwaukee is also kind of starting to creep their way into that top spot. They've been on a winning streak of late. I know they lost to I can't remember who they just lost to, but they
lost to the Cardinals on that grand slam.
Nolan Arenado.
Uh-huh.
But they had won 6 straight before that, so they've kind of creeped up into that number 1 seed conversation in the NL. But talking about the Phillies, they've been on the top, all season long. You've seen the Yankees kind of go up and down a little bit in their division, but the Phillies have had complete control all year. And I mean, this is where we're going to need 3 good starts from. Whether it's, I think it should be Waka, Singer,
and
back to Lugo.
Lugo.
Right.
Yeah, I think Lugo will pitch on Sunday.
Yeah. So I don't know. I don't know how Singer is going to look against a lineup that there's not a hole in their lineup. 1 through 9, you're facing dangerous hitters. So Singer, if I'm JJ and if I'm Matt Quatraro, I might honestly think about calling Marsh up and pitching him in Brady's spot, because we've seen Brady against good team after good team just completely explode. And I honestly think that in this kind of situation, it might help to look at Alec Marsh and say, I don't think that he's going to have a blow-up game like Brady Singer might.
Yeah, but at the same time, if you take Brady Singer out, you're telling him that everything that he has done up to that point is not for good. And I know that it's a team sport, and you've got to, you do whatever's best for the team, and he is a team player. But saying that, I think that would hurt his psyche, and it may hurt him down the road. I think that he does need to pitch this on Saturday. He just needs to step it up and bring fire and brimstone, as you would say.
I agree that it definitely would hurt his mental, but I don't see, from what he pitches, the pitches he throws 2 pitches, and they really aren't effective to a good offense that has a good scouting report, which we've seen in the last 2 months. It doesn't feel like it's a good recipe to put him out there against the Phillies. I know it's what's going to happen, and there's nothing really that's going to change, but I don't know. I think that's the game where I am the least confident. I think Waka can get the job done, and I obviously think Lugo can get the job done, but it's hard for me to see a world where Brady Singer is pitching in a game against the best lineup in the entire MLB into the 5th or 6th inning.
Absolutely, and the reason why we're saying this is because the Phillies are 74-52. They have 4.84 runs per game, which is 3rd in the National League, but their ERA starters are 3.46, which is 2nd in baseball, and I believe it's behind the Seattle Mariners.
Yeah.
So saying that, I think it's more pressure on the offense. I think Brady or Bobby Witt Jr., Vinny especially, and Salvi, who has been playing well all year, but recently he just keeps swinging pitches out of the strike zone. Even my mom calls me up and says, look, Salvi should not be swinging at those pitches. My Salvi needs to do better.
Yeah, that's kind of the stuff we saw from Salvi last year, and what he kind of propelled himself to having such a good year at the beginning, because he wasn't chasing. He started off the season, if you remember that first series against the Twins, that first kind of week of baseball, he was chasing everything, and I was feeling the same way your mom was about, why is he swinging at this? He's not going to have that year we saw back in 21 where he had all those home runs, but he settled in, and then he started hitting the home runs. He started hitting the doubles and the singles, the RBIs, because he wasn't chasing. So I think for him, it's just going to be about finding that rhythm again, and hopefully that rhythm is found quickly in this 20-game stretch.
Absolutely. Now, saying this is the best chance that the Royals have to play the Phillies, because ever since the All-Star break, they are 12-18, which is 27th in baseball. So if you looking for something to help out the Royals, this would be the chance. So, and they are doing it at home. They still have one of the best records at home. It's just time for them to step up their game.
Yeah, and even going back to this series last year in Philly, that was even though I believe we lost 2 of 3, or maybe it was 3 or 4, I can't remember exactly, but those were all close games with how bad the team was last year, obviously. But that was, they were giving the round of applause to Trey Turner to try to get him going out in Citizens Bank Park. That was a fun series, and it was tightly contested throughout all of those games, and that's with that team. So I think that there might be something, hey, we were close last year. We have so much more confidence now. Let's go beat up on these guys.
Yep, absolutely. So I know that the Royals last night, they played the Angels, and Johnny Cueto came back to Kansas City. for the first time since he was pitching for them in 2015. So he gave up, I think, 8 hits, 3 runs, but the best part of it is when Ron Washington took him out of the game, the fans gave him a standing ovation, and I was watching it at home and I got emotional big time because it just shows how awesome the Royals fans are. I mean, yeah, you look at them at the last couple of years and you go, yeah, they didn't show up or nothing like that. Well, we were one of the worst teams in baseball, but they are playing great this year. Yeah, there was only 12,000 last night, but school started. They had everything else going. But the fact is, they gave them a standing ovation, and it was well worth it.
Yeah, and I think that just goes to show how special 2015 was when you're talking about that Royals team, and 2014 as well, because, in my lifetime, I'm 20 years old. I was born in 2004, so that's what paved my way to get into sportscasting, that season, that team. So I think everyone in Kansas City, from my age up, like, that's a special team. It doesn't matter how many rings Mahomes wins. If he wins 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever. That 2015 team is the one that everyone's going to hold the closest, because that was the first. That was the first taste of success in my life and a lot of people's lives in Kansas City sports. So it's so awesome to see moments like that, because, Cueto and Hosmer. Like, I was at Hosmer when he returned. I was at that game when the Red Sox came in town last year, and I got emotional watching them put his highlights on the big screen. And those are just such special moments, because those guys mean so much to the city and changed the way a lot of people in Kansas City view sports, because growing up, we had no winners until that team. So, yeah, in Cueto especially, because that was, talking about how most of my life it was losing sports in Kansas City. To see us go out and trade for Johnny Cueto and Ben Zobrist, like, that was so odd. I thought only the Yankees got to trade for good players. I thought only the Dodgers and the Patriots only got to trade at the trade deadline for good players. And then it was us. We were the ones buying and trading for the top pitcher and a top position player. It was awesome. So everyone was already rooting for him. And then, he came in. He struggled in the regular season. I think he went 4-7 with a 4.6 ERA, but no one remembers that anymore, because he dominated in the postseason. And he had kids like people my age that were doing the shimmy on the mound in Little League, and he was just so fun to watch.
Yes, absolutely. And he did struggle. And so, speaking of you being as young as you are compared to me, who I saw all of the Royals playoffs. I was about roughly your age when the Royals started winning all those playoff games in 76, 77, 78. So, absolutely. But here was the other thing. Their relief pitching was so dominant that the Yankees and the Dodgers and all those big teams started using their formula of how to be successful in the back of the pitching.
And the funny thing is, it seems that we've kind of gone away from that formula, because now we've got a bunch of nobodies that are in our back of our bullpen. But yeah, it was such a homegrown thing. All those bullpen guys, and I think that team really changed a lot about baseball. I think in ways that people don't really realize. I think one of the things is you didn't see guys coming out of the dugout to celebrate when someone hit a home run. You didn't see guys, doing a different celebration after they would hit a single and a double. That wasn't an everyday thing. Salvi splash. You didn't see people getting the Gatorade bucket after every single game and celebrate. I think it's little things of why that team was so good, because of how much fun they had and how they were all grown together in the Royals farm system, made that team so incredibly special and changed, I think, a lot about how the game is played.
Yes, I think it did change the culture, because as I was growing up, if you pointed out or showed off just a little bit or showed any emotion, the next time you got drilled in the ribs.
Right.
And I think to a point I like that, but I enjoyed this more because the players need to get excited. NFL players for the longest time used to show off. I remember Billy White Shoes Johnson doing the kind of doing the twist as he scored a touchdown, but you could not do that in baseball because it was considered an old man's game. And the Royals made it fun and told people, hey, we can get excited.
Yeah.
Now we can be serious and we can focus, but it's to have fun. And I truly enjoyed that.
Yeah, and I think it also you needed in order for that to happen in baseball, you needed a successful team to do that. You can't have a bad team celebrating, then it's just going to make everything worse. But it's the same thing in I think where baseball was at. It was people were like, "Oh, baseball's kind of a dying sport," and it needed some excitement. And then there's now everyone's exciting, and there's it's brandable on social media. You can post the clips of the guys getting excited. There's the unique celebrations that everyone has. I think it's really helped baseball. But I really do think that the Royals kind of originated that more fun and exciting style of baseball.
And I think the other thing that helped out was that there was really no big names. There was no Aaron Judge, no Juan Soto, no George Brett.
Yeah.
No big names. They were all equally good, and they could rely on each other. It wasn't like they needed a George Brett to drive in a run. They could all do it. They could do it from 1 to 9. Because I remember seeing George Brett. It was like, oh, let's get George on there. Let's hope this. But you didn't have to do that. Locane would get there. Moustakas did, even though he struggled for a little bit. But they still supported him because he was still one of those guys in that group with Salvi and Eric. And then they brought in Locane. They brought in Escobar. And it just made it an incredible time for Kansas City.
Yeah, there's very few examples, I think, in any sport of a exact formula on how to win games, whether it's basketball, football. What the Royals had was, let's keep the line moving, let's small ball, let's bunt, let's steal, let's get the guy around, and if we have a lead after the 6th inning, then it's over. The starters knew they had to go 6. The offense knew they had to score enough runs to lead after the 6th, and then the game was over. So I think there's very few cases of any sports team. You can't even say that about the Chiefs in any of the years that knew how to win in their own personal way.
Right. And with that, the Chiefs were also struggling themselves. In 2012, they had the worst team in football. Andy Reid came in 2013 and was starting the winning tradition, but they still wasn't the best team. They didn't have Patrick Mahomes. They did have Alex Smith, who was a good quarterback, but he was just an average quarterback. So the fans had to rely on the Royals. And when the Royals started winning in 2013 and then went in 2014, 2015, and 2016, that's who they had to look up to. That's who they had to rely on. So the last few years when the Royals have been playing bad, the last 3 or 4 years, we had Patrick Mahomes. So it was kind of like, oh, well, we don't care about the Royals anymore. But this year you can't say that, because now, even though the Chiefs are going for a three-peat, you've got the Royals playing great ball, playing playoff ball, and seeing where they're at.
And I think that just makes this year so much more exciting, because we were waiting as Royals fans, is this the year we step up? Is 20? We knew there was going to be some rough spots after 15. We knew the guys were going to leave, especially after 16. We go 500, and then it's like, all right, 2019, 2020. Let's start to get back on track. Well, 19 was terrible, 20 was terrible, 21 was terrible, and then 22, we got Bobby coming up. We have all these young guys. Let's see, is this the year where we're going to take a step up? No, we take a step backwards. And then kind of out of nowhere, this huge offseason for J.J. Piccolo and his staff that I think is one of, if not the biggest reasons why this team is having so much success, because not only do you bring in a guy like Seth Lugo and Michael Waka, et cetera, but it shows Bobby and it shows Vinny and it shows Salvi, you guys can win now. We don't have to wait any longer. This is a team that we believe can win, and we believe you guys can win. And I think that confidence was so big, because last year there was zero confidence. After April, we're out of it, so they're just playing kind of just to play.
Right. Absolutely. And we just kept saying if they had a decent April, stay at 500, we have a shot. And it was great because we were playing the Chicago White Sox at that time, and so we were beating up on them. But last year we couldn't beat up.
Exactly.
We couldn't beat up on anybody. So, and the other thing is that, I was there for 85, so I was in the motion, and a lot of people would you give up 10 years of bad ball for a championship game? And so we were like, yes. Well, it virtually happened.
Yeah.
They won the championship in 2000. They went to the World Series in 14, won the championship in 15, and then had a decent 16. But then from then on, it started going downhill. And then we started realizing, no, that's not what we want. We want winning teams, kind of like the Chiefs, even though they would make the playoffs and then they would get beat in the first round or second round. That, we wanted more than that. And so with David Glass, and he was an okay owner, but he ran the Royals like Walmart, which he owned.
Yeah.
So when John Sherman came in, it was, we were like, had a bad last year. We were like, oh no, this is going to happen again. Well, John Sherman in the offseason made sure that wasn't going to happen. And with this, we've finally got a team that we can finally rely on, because we thought all he wanted was just a new stadium.
Well, I think that goes into it. I think the people of Kansas City have a lot to do with the success as well, because I think John Sherman, and I think it's fair to think this, heard what everyone was saying. You want us to help pay for a new stadium, you want us to vote on this new stadium, how about we start winning games again? And I think this might help, because you're seeing the Royals win, you're seeing success, and sure, I want to see a new stadium. I want to see a more reachable stadium. So I think that also goes into it 100%.
Right. But I was at the Royals game Friday and Saturday against the Cardinals, and a lot of people kept saying, why are we getting rid of this stadium? Why are we getting rid of the stadium? And I kept trying to let people know, it's kind of like me and you. You don't know, the history of it, but you wasn't there for the history. I was there for the history. And things change. Whether you want it to change or not, it's got to change, and that stadium is beautiful. It is immaculate. I mean, we had the 2012 All-Star game there. Everybody adored it, but it's 50 years old. It's the 5th oldest stadium in baseball, and we're trying to help economize a city that for the longest time, everybody thought we were a horse and buggy city.
Yeah, well, I think look at last night. We're not playing a good team, but we are a good team.
Right.
And you had 12,000 people in the crowd, which, you can say, sure, back to school. It's a midday week, but stadiums in the city, there's no back to school excuse there. They're selling out. If a good team is selling out, regardless. So.
Yep.
The excuse is valid because of where the stadium is, but if the stadium is downtown, I guarantee you we have 12,000, at least more people in the crowd for that game last night, because there's people in the city that are, oh, what's up? Oh, let's go to the Royals game tonight. But it's not reachable. There's no one walking around, Arrowhead Stadium and Kauffman Stadium in the middle of the day. So there's no. It's almost like it's a trip to go to the stadium, regardless of where you are.
Well, here's the thing: you get people that have businesses. Where do they stay at? They stay downtown. They don't stay in Blue Springs or Leawood. Maybe a little bit in Leawood because it's Kansas, but that's another story. But the main thing is that they're downtown. So if the stadium is right by there, they can say, oh, okay, they get their customer. They go, hey, let's go to the game. We can walk to it. Or even just take a small cab, up the street or whatever, or Uber, how it is nowadays, and go there. And that's what a lot of people don't see. They see the beautiful stadium and they get narrow-minded a little bit. And I agree, it's a beautiful stadium, but things change.
Yeah, and you, it's going to be a beautiful stadium if it's in
Right.
downtown as well, which is and I agree. Kaufman is. I mean, it's my childhood was basically a Kaufman Stadium, which is the same with so many people. But yeah, I think I don't see. They make the what's the word, like the graphics of what the stadium would look like.
Yeah.
And it's just so cool to see what a baseball stadium, a Royal Stadium in the middle of Kansas City would look like. It would be gorgeous, and I think you can still keep aspects of Kauffman. I'd love to see a big screen. I'd love to see the fountains still, but I think it's so much better for the overall atmosphere of a baseball stadium, of the Royals, the ticket sales. Everything is so much better, I think, if it is downtown.
Right, absolutely. And I'm just going to say this. In 72, they had Municipal Stadium.
Yep.
So the Monarchs played there. The Chiefs played there. They still have the longest football game in NFL history there. They had the Royals playing there, but then they switched to the Truman Sports Complex. So I know there was probably a lot of people.
Yeah.
I mean, I was only 7 years old at that time, so I know a lot. But I know a lot of people balked at that. But then they opened up to the stadium. Well, we're going to have to do that again.
Yeah.
And with that, we are at halftime on Any Given Sunday on KUAW. Max Gershon is our guest, and he is rocking the show again, and I greatly appreciate you coming out. We're going to take a quick break, and then when we come back, we're going to talk maybe just a little bit more baseball, but then we're going to talk Chiefs.
And you're listening to KUAW Radio, Kansas City's global community radio station. You can pick us up on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch. You can also listen to us on Get Me Radio, online radio box, if you have a Roku or Apple TV. And if you have a smart speaker, just tell your smart speaker, Amazon or Google, to play KUAW Radio. And we'll be right back in 1 minute. No, they're all. right back.
All right, we're back for the second half of Any Given Sunday on KUAW. Coach 24 is out on location. George Walker, DJ Scatter is running the show. We got Max Gershon, and I apologize for the missaying earlier.
It's all good.
I have been a little under the weather, so I apologize for that because I have always said it right, and then somehow I just need to go home and rest. But anyway, we're having an awesome show. We were talking about the Royals, and so this weekend, we have the Phillies. It's going to be it's going to have a lot of people. Then we go to Cleveland. We have the doubleheader on Monday, which was the makeup game for the first series that the Royals and the Indians had that was postponed due to rain. And we play them 7 times in the next, 10 games after that. So how crucial is this for the Royals to get their act together?
I mean, it's super crucial. I think you can be fine with a split, and in some cases, depending on how the rest of the games go, you can afford losing a series, but you can't get swept. That's the nightmare situation is getting swept in any of these series coming up is getting swept. But we're in a place right now where winning a series or splitting a series is completely fine with the teams we are playing. It's just kind of steady ahead, stay in the race, and if stay in the race until the last week in the division, and you're in a great spot because the wild card is looking good right now. It's going to take, it's possible with the teams we're playing, but it would take a really, really rough stretch to put us in a place where we're kind of in panic mode. But right now we're kind of cruising, and it needs to kind of stay that way in the next 20 games.
Right. And I get a lot of people that say, well, they're good teams. We don't play well against good teams. The thing of it is they took care of business when they absolutely needed to. They took care of the weaker teams, the Chicago White Sox, the Angels, the Reds, and the Reds were actually 500. They were actually in that race for playoff. Excuse me. They were actually in a race for playoffs, and then the Royals boat raced them.
Yep.
I say that the next 20 games, here's what's going to happen. If they go 15-5, they are fighting for the division and first place in the AL. If they go 10-10, they are still in the playoff race. But if they go 5-15, they're going to be on the verge of being on the outside.
Yeah, that's 5-15 is the panic, but I think 10-10 you're exactly where you are right now, and who knows? Cleveland's struggling. If they go under 500 in the next 20, 10-10 looks a lot better than it did if Cleveland is good catches fire, which we know they can because they've been a very streaky team in the past. So I think 10-10 I'm completely fine with. I think anything under 500 it's a little gloomy, but I mean if the Royals manage to go over 500 in these next 20 games, I think this is as confident of a team as they've been all year if that happens, and I think that the playoffs become a reality instead of right now it's still a reality, but it's real. It's a clear vision, I should say,
right,
that the Royals will make the playoffs if they go over 500 in the next 20 games.
Right. They did say that the analytics said that right now they are 83.4% in the playoffs. So, and that's good. I think my thing is that they need to win at least 4 out of the next 7 games with the Indians. They have to take care of them. Saying that, if they do go over 500, if they go 10-10, 11-9, or even better, then I think people need to stop going, okay, they can't win the big games with the big teams. They can only beat the weaker teams. I think that will start slowing down a lot.
Yeah, and I think it's funny because I have friends that are Red Sox. I have a Red Sox fan and a Brewers fan, Yankees fan, and they're like, "Oh, you guys you play no good teams or whatever the case is." I'm like, you know what? These are teams that we didn't beat last year. We lost 106 games last year, so regardless of who we're beating, it's an impressive win in my book. And 83%, 73%. It doesn't matter to me because we've been so bad over the last decade that it's like I will believe we're in the playoffs when we're in the playoffs. Like right now, it still doesn't even feel like we're a playoff team in my eyes, just because I know how bad we've been over the last. So when we're really secured, that's when I'll really be like, wow, we're actually in the playoffs. But there's so much baseball to be played, and anything can happen.
Right, absolutely. Now I'll give J.J. Piccolo a lot of credit because at the trade deadline he brought in players that have actually helped the team. I know Harvey hasn't done the best, and he is on the DL, but you brought in Lorenzen. He's had 4 starts. He has a 1.99 ERA. You can't ask for more than that. You've got DeYoung, who came from Chicago. He's been playing very well, and he's been a good bat in the lineup that, we had to rely on other people besides our top 3. And there was one other player. The best one. The best acquisition, Urcraig.
Urseg.
Oh, is it Urseg? Yeah. So his name is.
Yeah, that's a hard one.
Yeah. So Urseg, and he has been dominant. He came in last night, shut him down again, and actually he's been our best bullpen that we've needed all year long. Now, I know Will Smith is slowly starting to get better, and he had been in the last 3 World Series, so let's just hope that he has his trend of making it to another World Series.
Yeah, and I think Lucas Urseg needs to be the closer like we saw last night. If we make the playoffs, he needs to be the guy. You can't rely on anyone else. And if we're in the playoffs, if we're in the wild card especially, there is no reason for James MacArthur, Chris Stratton, for Will Smith, for even Zerpa. There's no reason for any of those guys to be walking out of the bullpen in the 6th inning plus, because we have Bubic and you have Urseg and you have possibly Harvey. Schreiber, even though he's been shaky at points.
Right.
But
he's come back. He's come back from an injury, so we're hoping that he'll get it together.
Yes, but I think those are guys that you can, I don't want to say trust. You can only trust really Urseg, and even Bubic has been really good too. But there's no reason that there should be any other combination in a must-win game than those 4 guys.
Right, and I get you can't pitch those relievers every single game, but saying that, you got to, we are still hoping for an HDH. Bullpen like we did 9 years ago. So, but saying that, I think everything will be fine. And no matter what happens the rest of the year, it's been a successful year because we are almost over 500. If anybody at the beginning of the season would have put money over on the Royals winning 82 or more games, they're going to win money because what are they, 71 now? They have to win 11 more games to get that.
Yeah, actually, I put a bet down at the beginning of the year of Cole Reagans to win Cy Young, Bobby to win MVP, and the Royals to win the division. So I'm going to come up a little short, but it's still
right.
Those aren't as far off as a lot of people I told that bet about that they thought. So, it's been, people complain because obviously people are going to complain when things aren't going as good as they have been at points this season. And I think what I need to think about when I get upset, even when we lost on against the Angels 8-6 or whatever it was, and I was upset about it. And I'm like, this team lost, and it's not that different of a team. Lost 106 games last year, and to be at the spot we are at right now, it's one of the best turnarounds ever in baseball. So
Absolutely.
You can't. I think I saw a tweet the other day that I think we have to go. I think we need to win 25-ish games the rest of the year to have the best turnaround ever.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I think the Diamondbacks have it in
Did they do that?
No,
they didn't.
It was the early 2000s or late 90s.
Okay, with Randy Johnson and,
I think so.
Schilling.
I think so. I'll have to find that tweet again. But, yeah, it's something, I think 22, 25-ish
Right.
wins out, which is hard. But possible, and that's the best turnaround ever after a 100-loss season.
I'm thinking that if they win 19 more games, they are automatic. I think they will automatically be in the playoffs. That will give them the ticket to the playoffs.
I think 500 baseball definitely puts you in a very, very, very good spot to be in the wild card.
Right. Saying that, they believe they have 36 more games. I think
so, yeah.
36 more games. So 18-18 puts them at 89, and my math is killing me right now. 70.
Less than 89.
Right, less than 89. So anyway, right up the street, there's an event going on, which is the last playoff game or the last preseason game.
Not in the playoffs yet.
No, not the playoffs yet. I'm jumping with the Royals. So, and obviously we're wearing our Mahomes jerseys because they are playing tonight, but he will not be playing.
No, neither will Caleb Williams for the Bears, and I don't think any starters really are going to play. But I think it's been a pretty good preseason for the Chiefs. You've seen Xavier Worthy shine at spots. You've seen Patrick kind of do his thing, even though the starters haven't scored a touchdown. The defense isn't fully healthy. Like Justin Reed hasn't played. I don't think. Have we seen Nick Bolton?
I don't think so. I think he's had injuries, and they just want to make sure that. And this is the time you keep him out.
Yeah.
Well, here's the difference. You've got Patrick Mahomes not playing. You've got other starting quarterbacks. Josh Allen's not going to play. Joe Burrow's not going to play in their last game. But Carolina is playing their number one quarterback, Bryce Young.
Bryce Young. Those guys, like Josh Allen, doesn't play at all in the preseason.
Right.
Lamar doesn't play at all in the
Exactly.
preseason, and I think it's only helped Mahomes in every year of playing in the preseason, and it's kind of proven he doesn't get off to a slow start like some of the other quarterbacks do.
Right.
But I think the only downside of the preseason this year is obviously Hollywood Brown probably not going to play on week 1 or 2 with his injury, which sucks that they'll happen. But I think it's going to be a good test for offense without him.
Right.
Because it's going to be a great addition to have him back, but it'll rely on Xavier Worthy more, and it's going to be a great test for him right out of the gate going up against a great defense like Baltimore.
Do you think that Worthy has pressure on him to perform? I know, like Rice last year, they didn't really put the pressure on him as much. But do you think Worthy has that pressure?
Well, I don't think he has enough as much pressure as Rashee Rice did last year, and especially I think the pressure kind of grew throughout the year because at the beginning of the year, talking about a great receiving core that we thought it was going to be a great receiving core, and that went out the window very fast. And then Rice kind of had pressure and more pressure, but then he kind of settled in. It was around the first Raiders game, where he was like, okay, when we throw to this guy, the receivers don't look that bad because he's making catches and he's running after catch. So I think having him, which I don't think he's going to get suspended until next year. It's too late. I think next year he'll get hit, which is great for us, whether people like it or not. It is what it is. But I think having Rice, having Kelsey, and when Hollywood comes back, it just takes so much pressure off Worthy, and he can kind of form himself into his own space in this offense, which he knows he can be successful. He's got all the tools in front of him, Mahomes, Andy Reid. So I think there's definitely a lot less pressure on Xavier Worthy than there was on Rashee Rice.
Saying this, going to the wide receivers, what do you think of Kadarius Toney? Do you think he will make the cut this year?
I am happy to say that I think in about 30 minutes now, it's going to be his last game in a Chiefs jersey. And I am happy because of last year. Honestly, I take that back because he helped us win a Super Bowl. And he had the punt return, he had the touchdown, whatever. But there's no spot on him for this team. They tried him at running back. It didn't work.
Right.
He's not a good receiver. So I think he will be cut after tonight.
Right. So in other words, what can you do for me now? And right now he's not doing anything. So
there's not much for him to do. And I think I've always been a big Justin Ross fan
Uh-huh.
as that last spot
Uh-huh.
because I think he is a cool story out of Clemson with all the injuries he dealt with there, and I think he has a lot of talent. I think if I'm making a roster, I'm taking him over Sky Moore first, like just easy.
Right.
But that's not what Brett Veach and Andy Reid
So
want to do.
saying that, do you think Sky Moore will make the cut?
Yeah, I think Sky Moore has a guaranteed spot on the roster, which I don't like, but he's young and they like him, so he's going to be on the roster. But yeah,
I think he can benefit. He can be. I'm not saying he will, but he could benefit on the special teams.
Yeah.
Returning punts and kickoffs, especially with the funky way they're doing the kickoffs. And I'm not saying it's a bad way. Right now
I'll
it's
say
funky.
it's a bad way.
I think it's just funky. I just think that it's got to clean up all the it's just like a computer.
Yeah.
You have a whole bunch of junk in there. You clean the junk out, and it runs a lot better.
I don't know if it was necessary. I think the kickoffs were fine, but that's not up to me, and I'll
Right.
just have to. I'm not gonna stop watching.
Right.
So,
Absolutely.
but here I'll ask you a question, Brian.
Okay.
Who were you most impressed with in the preseason? Not like a big name, but like kind of a surprise person that really impressed you in the preseason.
Powell.
Oh, okay.
He had that catch, and then he had the ability to break away.
Yep.
And then, as a rookie, he had the presence of mind to raise the football up so the guy could not
Yeah.
punch it out. Because a lot of times you're running like this, and they can punch it out, and it'd go out of the end zone, no touchdown, and everything else. And he raised that up. So I'm going to give it to Powell.
Yeah, Cornell Powell. He's been on the practice squad for a few years now. He's out at Clemson, but he's always been fun to watch in the because I was kind of excited when we got him, big school
Right,
Clemson
right.
receiver, but he's never really gotten his chance. But yeah, that was cool to see him get a touchdown. My pick is Jaden Hicks, the safety out of Washington State that we got. I
Ooh.
think he's going to be.
What was he, the 4th or 5th round pick?
It was late. It was
Yeah.
late for how good he's going to be. I'm super excited. It's such a classic, another Brett Veach late round defensive back steal. I think he's going to have an immediate impact. Watch out for him in week 1.
Well, and stuff that he does makes losing L'Jarius Sneed not a big deal. Everybody's like, "Oh my gosh, L'Jarius Sneed," but you had to pay him a lot of money. You ain't going to do that. Well, heck, there's Terrell today from Atlanta. They signed the second largest contract for a cornerback, and L'Jarius Sneed didn't even get near that, and from what I've heard, he's struggled a little bit in Tennessee.
Yeah, and I think that's definitely going to be super interesting to watch. Week 1 is Jalen Watson. Who's running the slot with Snead gone? Is Trent going to move to the slot? I don't think Trent's going to.
No.
I think Trent's going to stay on the
He's
outside.
going to be the number one.
Yeah.
The number one corner. He will take on the number one receiver,
which is great.
Yeah.
But now you're thinking, okay, well, who is going to fill that next void? Is it going to be Joshua Williams? Josh Williams has kind of struggled with penalties throughout his career, which he's also been a great steal in the draft. Jalen Watson, the 7th round pick, I love. He's made big play after big play from the pick 6 in week 2 years ago against Herbert and the Chargers to his one-handed pick against the Jaguars in the playoffs. He makes big plays in big games, so he's fun to watch. But I think you got McDuffie, you got Williams, or Watson Williams, and then it's kind of who's that 4th guy? Is it Najee Johnson?
Right.
There's a couple different guys that are floating around. Shamari Connor, if they want to move him to
I
cornerback.
think Connor's going to stay. They had a good story on him at Virginia Tech that they actually, when he was playing there, they taught him how to play in a system kind of similar to the Chiefs. So I think he will be one of those guys that you can rely on. Now, saying this, do you think CEH is going to make the cut?
Yeah, I think he'll make the cut, and he's as hard it is to watch him miss wide open gaps all season long. He is a great locker room guy, and they all love him, and he has the capability to make big plays occasionally, which is always fun. But I hope he gets less touches this year than he has in previous, because he's just, unfortunately, it takes it just he never it never ends up good when he's on the
Right.
field. It feels
well,
like
he just doesn't have that scary it about him that makes the defense go, oh no. But
Yeah.
you got Carson Steele coming in.
yeah.
And I think that, he's got a lot more to offer than CEH.
Yeah.
So I just can't see, because they got to keep, three running backs and a full. They're keeping a fullback this year, which
Yeah.
But they could put Steele at there.
Yeah, that's probably what they'll do. And Clyde he's not panned out, and I'm starting to get a little nervous about our first round pick 2 years ago, Felix and Duke Uzama, because he really didn't look good in the preseason, and he didn't do much last year. So that's I'm starting to get. I hope he has a great season this year and we see progress, but. I need to see something out of him because I'm starting to stop believing.
Well, I will say this. You remember Bruce Smith?
Yep.
Great player, right? Well, he struggled in his first year, and I know this is the second year coming up and everything. I think he's going to be okay, especially with Chris Jones and Karlaftis there. He will get I think he will learn a lot, and I think he will get better, just like Bruce Smith did. Now, I'm not saying that he's going to get 200 sacks in a career,
Right.
but I'm just saying that I think he will get better. Just give him a little chance. And we are at the end of Any Given Sunday on KUAW. Matt Gershon, greatly appreciate
Pleasure.
you coming in again. So definitely would love having you back.
Of course.
We have a great time when we do this.
Yes.
So, and we've got DJ Scatter, George Walker running the show. We've got Coach 24, Darwin Penny. He is out and about, but he is still part of the team. Be awesome, not angry, and you guys have yourself a phenomenal sports weekend.
All right, Mike's off. Thank you, guys. Yeah.